You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Mission Log Prodigy, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. Episode 3, Starstruck.
Welcome into another episode of Mission Log Prodigy, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And I'm Norman Lau. Much like our flagship Mission Log podcast, each week here on Mission Log Prodigy, we discuss every episode of this animated series and discover what makes each of them special and see if there are any morals, meanings, or messages that we have learned.
This week, it will shock you to learn, Episode 3, Starstruck. Yes, Episode 3. What? If anyone is confused, the first episode, Lost and Found, it's actually Episode 1 and 2 combined to make a super amazing long form kind of a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Please remember that Mission Log Prodigy is an in-depth review podcast, so if you have not seen Starstruck and you don't want anything to be spoiled, you may want to put us on pause. We'll wait. I don't have a watch. Watch the episode and then come back. We're so happy you came back so that you can hear us talk about it.
And as we mentioned before in our first episode, we will be releasing this show both on YouTube and as a regular podcast download. So please be sure to engage the like button and subscribe to Mission Log Prodigy on the Roddenberry Entertainment YouTube channel. And please make sure to follow this podcast on your podcast catcher of choice.
But Norman, I knew you were going to jump in. Before we jump to the recap, here's why our podcast is so special. You might have forgotten. You specifically.
No.
We want to hear from you, a different you, the listener whose ears we are in, specifically the younger Prodigy fans out there who would like to share their thoughts on the show. So please send us a 1 to 2 minute voice message at missionlog.prodigy@roddenberry.com. And in your message, please answer the following questions. What is your first name and your age? Did you like this episode? What was your favorite part? And did you learn anything? We look forward to hearing your comments, which will be featured at the end of the published podcast episode, the super professional one. And like your calls, here are our answers for the same questions.
Okay, here we go. Ashley, I'm going to ask you.
Oh, I don't know if I'm emotionally prepared for this.
Did you like the episode?
Yes. Did you?
I like the episode too. Very much so.
Good.
And I can't wait to get to it. What was your favorite part?
My favorite part, I also thought was the saddest part, was when everybody was replicating the food that they wanted to eat in Rock Talk. The only food that she'd ever eaten was like the gruel and the rations that they were given in the mine. I thought that was really sweet and sad. I think she's going to occupy that space for me. So lift us up. What was your favorite part?
Kind of like right in the same scene, because I love it when Janeway looks at her and says, dream big, kid.
Yeah.
Just the sky's the limit. You have everything here at your fingertips, like literally, since they're at the food replicator. So whatever you want, it's yours. Just have to dream about it. I love that.
I can dream about replicator food all day. Okay. Can I ask the last and the biggest question?
Oh, I'm ready.
Did you learn anything?
I did. I really did, actually. I learned that doing what you're told to do isn't the same thing as doing the right thing.
Mm.
And we're going to get a little bit more into that like later on. How about you, Ashley?
I learned that trust is hard earned. And similarly, I learned that people can also change. And I think we're going to talk about that in a little bit later on in the episode.
Yeah. Like right after the recap. So remember, make sure that you send those to Mission Log dash Prodigy. Sorry, folks. I probably mistyped that in the email here, but it's Mission Log Prodigy at Roddenberry.com or Mission Log at Roddenberry.com. Your choice, but we would like to have your voicemail sent to Mission Log Prodigy at Roddenberry.com. Anyway. That's all the business stuff. Let's get to the fun stuff, right? So here is this week's episode's recap. Star Trek Prodigy, episode 3. Not 1, not 2, but 3. Starstruck, written by Chad Quant and directed by Alan Wan. And because I forgot to mention this last episode, and I'm so sorry that I forgot, music by Nami Melumad. Thank you so much, Nami, for the music. When we last saw our heroes, they had just escaped from the Diviner and the prison planet Tara Lamora with the help of a powerful starship called the Protostar. And by accident, Rocktalk activated a very special hologram who has now properly introduced herself as Catherine Janeway, a hologram programmed after one of Starfleet's finest captains and created to train the Protostar's crew on their journey back into Federation space. And by crew, meaning younger recruits like Dal, Gwyn, Rocktalk, Zero, Jankompog, and Murph, even if they aren't exactly Starfleet cadets. Dal, once again trying to talk his way out of this awkward situation, asks hologram Janeway to remind them about Starfleet and the Federation, just in case anyone has forgotten. And even though Janeway finds this request strange, she tells everyone on the bridge that the United Federation of Planets is a galaxy-wide group of worlds and species that promotes fairness and equality, a word that Rocktalk enjoys hearing. Janeway continues that Starfleet is how the Federation is able to represent themselves in the galaxy as they boldly go where no one has gone before. And as hologram Janeway offers to help Dal plot a course back to Federation space, he becomes angry and tells everyone that they don't need her help. In fact, Dal chooses a point in the star map furthest away from where they are and orders Janeway to pilot the ship there. Oh, and to also let him know where the ship's jail is. As Dal and his crew escort Gwyn to the brig, they all question why they are doing this and not accepting any help from hologram Janeway. Dal snaps back at them, telling his friends that all authority figures in charge are the same. They all tell you to do what they want, never caring about what you want. But Rocktalk quickly points out that since Dal is now in charge, is he lying to them too? Now which way is it to the brig? Just follow Murph. While Dal and Zero figure out what to do with Gwyn, Jankompog and Rocktalk wander around their new ship and find the cafeteria, where hologram Janeway tells them that the food replicators can make anything they want for free, which delights Jankum but puzzles Rocktalk as she simply orders Nutrigoop, the only food she's ever known. Dal, Zero, and Murph explore the ship as well and eventually find the standard crew quarters. While Zero and Murph check out their bunk beds, Dal finds the captain's quarters, which of course he takes for himself. Meanwhile, Rocktalk pays Gwyn a visit with a hot bowl of food. Gwyn is cold to her, but Rocktalk just wants to know why. Why for so many years did she not stop her father from taking all the unwanted, like herself, as prisoners for the mines? Gwyn thought they were criminals, and Rocktalk explains with sadness in her voice that their only crime was simply being caught. Jankompog and Zero make their way to the engine room and are surprised to find not one, but 2 warp cores and something else. And before they can figure out what that is, a red alert warning sends everyone running back to the bridge, well, maybe except for a sluggish and sleepy Dal who strolls in behind his friends. Hologram Janeway tells them that they are caught in what appears to be the gravity well of a dying star. But before she is able to plot a course that would lead the Protostar back to safety, Dal shuts her down and begins making a series of very bad decisions, which puts the Protostar and his crew into even greater danger. One of those bad decisions accidentally shuts down the power, allowing Gwyn to escape the brig and activate the vehicle replicator system, which can make escape shuttles. Discovering what Gwyn is up to, Dal orders Rocktalk to stop her, and after fighting each other in the vehicle replicator bay, Gwyn is beaten, and Rocktalk returns her to the brig. On the bridge, all seems hopeless, and Dal decides to swallow his pride and reactivate hologram Janeway for help, which he does, and gets the ship out of immediate danger and stable again. But it's Zero's telepathic connection with Dal that saves the ship because they both agree to stop fighting against gravity and instead go with the flow, which allows the Protostar to build up enough speed to slingshot them past the star and out of danger. The crisis is over, the ship is safe, and the crew is unharmed. However, they still don't trust Dal until Janeway reminds him that when the Federation was formed, even though there were differences in languages, in beliefs, in cultures, one thing brought all these species together, one common purpose: to be better. And in Janeway's opinion, after everything she's just experienced, she believes that this crew has potential. But Dreadnought and the Diviner haven't given up the search for Gwyn and the Protostar just yet. The scared miners, including a terrified Caitian orphan, watch his fortress rise, transform into a gigantic ship, and speed off in search of Gwyn and the Protostar. The end. Wow. How's that for an exciting third episode?
It was a very exciting third episode with a lot to do, and I was into it. Also, did you notice we got more beautiful spacescapes in this episode, albeit a bit more
Always
dangerous this time around?
And purpley, I love the purple color in the backgrounds. I just love the vibrancy of this show. It just draws the eye in. Well, you know what? We're just going to jump right into our observations then, because
yes,
that's what I'm talking about. So let's start off with you, Ashley. What, again, I could always ask you, what stuck out to you? What struck you first? But let's just see what you have to say.
The thing I think I'll start with is that Janeway is really sassy in this hologram Janeway. She is familiar but different. She's definitely not the Janeway that you see at the end of Voyager. I guess spoilers if you haven't seen Voyager. There's actually a pretty good chance that a lot of people who are watching this have not seen Voyager. So in a lot of ways it doesn't matter. But if you are a very young fan like myself but have watched all of Voyager, then you'll recognize that she's kind of a bit more like the EM8. She's more like the Doctor, who's a hologram on that show. He was very sarcastic and sassy and pointed in his observations. And I think that a little bit of that has been infused into Holo Teacher Janeway. And it's very fun. I like, because they put her against Dal for most of this episode. And I really liked her one-liner. She is already iconic.
Yeah, I know. It's Janeway, right? And I think that's... I guess that's like she's meeting a lot of people's expectations of what Janeway or who Janeway is.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that Catherine's like bringing just a little bit something special, because she's been away from the role for some time.
She's been Orange is the New Black King for a while.
Oh, this is also true. Yeah. I love the just introduction of the Protostar, because we only really got to see the Protostar in the first two episodes up to a point. We never really got to see the insides or what it can do. And wow, a lot of surprises in the Protostar, from the new food replicators to the vehicle replication chamber. What's that all about?
That is fully one of my notes as well. I feel like Star Trek invented 3D printers, basically. Replicators are just 3D printers, but they can use all forms of matter, not just the weird plastic tubing that you feed into them. But I feel like since we got a version of replicators in our world, kind of like how pads and touchscreens have evolved since we've gotten pads and touchscreens in our real world, the replicators are becoming way more impressive. Like when the vehicle replicator showed up, I was like, dang, if I was an engineer, like if I were Trip Tucker somewhere in the past, I'd be shaking in my boots.
Now, did you find that maybe it was a little too advanced of technology? I mean, we're dealing with obviously a time after Voyager has returned to the Alpha Quadrant, but I think that it's always nice to see like Star Trek technology kind of push a little bit further than where we thought it should be or where it was.
It's interesting because we have not met modern day Janeway or present day to the series Janeway. And we haven't met yet present day Chakotay to the series timeline, who we know is coming. And that, I think, is where we're going to get a better sense of where this lies in the general timeline. I'll bring up another point that I had. I didn't mind. I think the replicator might be a bit advanced, but it's clearly a story device just to have a really cool fight. And I'm not mad about that. I thought Rock Talk and Gwyn have a really great like for me, that was, I know it was supposed to be Dahl's journey, but like that was the emotional core of the episode for me personally, and that might just be my personal bias toward female characters as a woman. But watching them fight as the vehicle was being built around them as like a physical representation of the conflict between them, I thought was such intelligent writing. It was such a beautiful metaphor. And just like, I don't like real life violence, but I love fake fictional violence. And I think when you can do a fight with found objects, right, like things that are just in the room, that's always really dynamic. If you are one of our adult listeners, if you haven't checked out John Wick, it's super good for that. And this is kind of the inverse of that, because they are forced to deal with found objects, but as they're coming into being, and you can kind of see both of their intelligences and their strategies on display in this different way. So is it a bit, did I think it was a bit of a stretch? Maybe, but ultimately what it was in service of, I'll let it go. It was really neat.
I mean, it was a really great storytelling tool, and it was a way to just move the camera around so that it wasn't just a straight kind of linear fight. But I think more importantly, the fight was one thing, but I think the subtext was completely another thing between Gwen and Rock again, because in the first episode, they fight. In this episode, they fight a few times, and not just with fists, but with words.
Yeah.
But in their relationship, kind of the words are kind of fists, because Gwen's trying to come at Rock in a certain way, and Rock is just she's trying to understand, because she doesn't understand. She doesn't understand why someone like Gwen, who seems like she's a decent person, isn't helping them. Definitely not helping her. And I really just kind of like love that little observation. And I think that it's very relatable, I think, at a certain age for siblings. And I think that there's going to be a lot
to some
more
of
that they're gonna
the
explore.
I think it's relatable to some of the big like world level things that the adult viewers are seeing right now, but to have it distilled down like that is so, that's probably really the most important moral meaning message is, why wouldn't you help someone when you could?
Right.
Now
Yeah.
I'm sad.
And being faced with that, I know. Let's bring this up a little bit. So I found this observation I thought was really super cool.
Okay.
So when you watch the episode back and back and forth like we do to prepare for this show,
Yes.
Sometimes I'll throw on the closed captionings, and then sometimes I'll see things in closed captionings. For those of you, listeners out there, those are, like the subtitles when you turn them on like, your obviously Paramount Plus this time. Janeway says, on the journey back to Federation space, talking about the protostar and the cadets and why she's there, on the way back, which means to me, I don't know if it means the same to you, Ashley, but to me, it means they were meant to be there to begin with. That's kind of the subtle hint that I'm getting there. So I guess the big question is, why were they there? And what happened to the original crew who she's supposed to be mentoring?
That is
That's a big question, right?
Super interesting question. If you are an IMDb diver, you might be able to make a guess at who they might be voiced by, who you may recognize from other things. I also think it's just such a great line to give to Janeway specifically, because her whole trajectory, as we saw it in her previous series, was returning to Federation space. So we get to eat our Janeway and have her too by giving her that line. So I think the mystery of what the protostar is doing is going to be a big part of it. And for me, the logical mid-season finale win, or the series break, which might be coming up, would have to do with when we encounter those, I'm assuming they're cadets, when we encounter those cadets, or when we start to maybe unpack and unspool a little bit of what that mission was. But I don't think we'll know the whole scope of it until the end of the first season.
Yeah, when it all comes together, there's going to be maybe even a little bit of rivalry between crew that believes that they own the ship, like Dal, because he said, "This is our ship. We can do whatever we want with it. We found this. It's treasure. It's ours. We own it." Versus the entitlement of, say, Starfleet cadets who have been out there also maybe looking for the ship and saying, "No. See, this is Starfleet. See that badge? That belongs to us. not you.
But that also opens up the interesting question, right? Of what is ownership? What is property? How do you stake your claim? Look, they're gonna be in the uniforms sooner or later.
You think so?
I do. Because if they have a vehicle replicator, they have a clothing replicator.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I also I really want to see Rock Talk I want her to put the badge on it. It'll be so cute.
I know. The potential is just out there.
Yeah.
It's so wide.
She's gonna make me cry. I am prepared to be devastated by her. They give a lot of emotional heavy lifting to an actual child, to the youngest cast member, which it's she for me represents like truth from the mouth of babes. That's not the quote, but it's sort of something like that, where she does evoke such innocence in everything from the character design to the performance and her entire bearing. And she's gonna make me cry before the end of the season for sure. I'm toast.
And she already hasn't. I mean, she kind of has. For
No,
me,
I'm full on bald yet. That's the bar.
But you know what I thought was also really cool? What's 2 warp engines? 2 warp engines?
I have
That's
so many
huge.
design questions. I have so many. The nacelles, like, how fast can we go?
And there's that third thing, right, that they never really got to. It's always kind of like the traditional trope of, what is that? That's so important. Oh my gosh, we have to be distracted. Do something else.
What is this MacGuffin that will come up when we need it in another story circle? Yeah.
So I'm waiting for that to happen.
I'm fully waiting for a Pacific Rim 45 minutes into the movie. Oh, we have a sword moment for the Protostar, and I won't even be mad about it when it happens. I can't wait to see the tricks, the bamboozlements, the goops they get. I am ready to see her in her full glory.
Now, the last thing I wanted to bring up, we did see a heartbreaking moment with our sweet Cation orphan baby at the end. She's now in a mining suit. There's got to be something.
I'm not happy.
I know. I was so sad. And I just can't wait for our crew to come back with a Protostar. I don't know, like engaging that third engine and just coming back and saving the day, because we have to, or they have to.
I need brothers who are in charge of this. Hallowed be thy name. I need her to join the crew. Please. Please.
And maybe we'll get that, which would be super amazing.
It'll be so devastating if you gotta at least save her, right? Right.
Exactly. And these were just our small observations. I mean, now we're going to get into like the bigger, heavier stuff, as if this episode wasn't heavy enough. So this is time to talk about like the big topics, the morals, meanings, and messages, and something that, we really can like identify with when it comes to just loving this as Star Trek. So actually, let's start with you. What were some of the big moral meaning message moments for you?
Ooh, I'm nervous. I'm sweating. I gotta go first. The first thing that stood out to me, this is kind of carrying over from some of the discourse that we had last episode, but it puts it more at the forefront, is to look for the similarities and maybe also look to the helpers. Maybe that's also part of it as well. Everybody in this crew very intelligently is very different. They follow the Matt Groening rule of in silhouette. I can tell you, I can name them all immediately. I could probably name them all by touch, and I've never touched these characters. They're very, very unique and singular. And I think that's also fabulous for like a younger audience, because there's a lot of ways to see yourself in all of these characters. And we learn through some of their, even Jankum gets like a couple moments where he's soft and vulnerable. And through those moments, we learn that they're actually more similar than they might look. And something that I try to embrace in my own life as someone who's no longer a 14-year-old space pirate is the idea of collaboration over competition, and particularly between Rock Talk and Gwyn, and ultimately everyone, because if not, they would have been crushed in the star. They all have to work together. Showing off is great. Jokes is great. We love Dal for that. And he is very charismatic. He's the lead of the series for a reason, but they're stronger together, and drawing on those similarities is gonna get them through. It's gonna get them back to Federation space, and it's gonna get them in those Starfleet uniforms. I'm telling you, they're gonna be in them.
Ashley's big prediction. I just want to kind of springboard off that, because Dal is very charismatic. He's a natural born leader, but natural born leaders don't necessarily say, or put their finger up and say, I'm the captain, and everyone else has to follow.
Are you sure?
I know. So, like, say early in the episodes, like Dal's like really angry. He's really distrustful of authority figures. I mean, those are the kind of moments where he's not the jokester. He's not the quick-witted one-liner. He's about like, nope, authority's bad. We don't listen to them. They tell you exactly what they want you to do, and they don't care about what you say. And I love how Rotok spins it on him and saying, but you're in charge now, so do we not care what you say? Is that the same thing? And yeah, he makes a lot of bad decisions here. But I think that, to your point, he realizes when he has to put that aside. He realizes when, you know what, I think I actually really do care about all these people. And I really do think that I'm not really prepared for what's happening right now. It sounds good on paper. It looks great when you're talking about it or thinking about it, in my head canon, in my head movies, but it's not the same thing as like drifting into a star that's about to crush us. So yeah, I'm a little in over my head. And I think that's really smart that the writers decided to pull that off.
He's such a boy. As someone who has never been when I imagine boys around the age of 10 to 4, like he is exactly what I imagine. And something that he has to learn in this episode, which I think is something that ultimately you never grow out of, but it's literally to respect your elders. In my notes, it says Janeway, but her name is in fact Janeway. She is spiritually and literally in many ways the mother of this crew. She's not the captain. We know who the captain is. He told us. And it took Dal the whole episode to embrace her and kind of look up to her and see value in her. And you have to respect mothers because mothers raise the world. They know some stuff. And we've seen Janeway be motherly to other characters on the show. We know that our beautiful Queen Catherine in her real life is a mother and has had mentor relationships with other actors and actresses in the cast. So I really like seeing that emerging for her in this version of the character, because she kind of gets to be both young and mature at the same time. But all those kids gotta learn that the old people know what they're talking about too.
And I really think that it was smart that in the hologram that she doesn't have the pips, that she doesn't have rank. She's just there to, again, be the mentor, be the help when you need it, when you call out for it, and not to get in the way of the decision making that's the responsibility of part of the growing up process, right, of these quote unquote cadets. And I also love that in her own way, in not just in Kate Mulgrew's way, but in Janeway's way, that she reminds us in that wonderful but short kind of reminder about what the United Federation of Planets is all about. Now, I know that the Star Trek fans out there that have been steeped in this lore for 56 plus years, they know what the United Federation of Planets stands for. They know how it came to be. They know all of the trimmings and trappings of that history. But 6 to 7 to 9-year-olds maybe don't. And I really think that it was a smart time to just say, from her point of view, from the mentor's point of view, to mentor the audience and say, this is who we are, and this is what we stand for. And the reactions from Jankum to especially Rock Talk, because when she said equality, that sounds nice, I
want it on a
held
t-shirt.
back many dripping tears. Because, yeah, these characters maybe have never been exposed to this idea that's so profound, that's just so outside of the scope of their reality from the minds that they just recently escaped from. So I thought that was just really smart. It wasn't preachy. It didn't overstay its welcome. It was just very necessary to get through that part of the history and into the story. So I really thought that was very, very well done.
And something else that I think it really takes advantage of the young cast with is a rule that we all learn, and that Norm and I continually learn making this podcast, particularly in our introductions, is that practice makes perfect. The Protostar, which if this were live action would be our standing set, right? It is a training vessel. And so in this episode, we saw Dal and his crew probably work pretty well together. And we learned that they would continue to work pretty well together if they'd had more swings at bat, if they had had the lapse of actually going to Starfleet or like any other pseudo space peacekeeping armada training academy, because they all have something that they can bring. I'm confident that they have the it factor and that they will succeed and become a functioning crew. But I suspect the sort of framework that we saw this episode, where somebody takes a step of authority or like a half step of growth, we get in a little bit over our heads and then have to come together under Janeway's advice in order to escape or save someone or save the day. I suspect that we're going to see that repeated a couple times over the course of this series, not just this season. I think that's a great framework. You see a similar framework in things like Avatar and Star Wars Rebels and other shows that we evoked a lot of last episode. And what's most exciting to me about this is there are a couple pretty iconic Star Trek training programs. The Kobayashi Maru is probably the most famous. I don't think we're getting there yet, but I'm interested to see the Trek twists. Like they have to fight someone on a holodeck, right? Like we had Badgie on Lower Decks. Like you've got to have a mad hologram. Things like that. How that's going to come up, I think, is going to be a lot of fun in this sort of theme of practice makes perfect.
Exactly. You're right. This is a training vessel, and they're going to, they're going to break a couple of replicated eggs, right?
A couple of hot banana eggs, yeah, for sure.
But in the same fashion, though, just kind of again springboard off of your point.
Yeah.
One major thing that really occurred to me throughout the course of this episode, from beginning to end, is knowing when to ask for help. Help is a strength. And a lot of people don't really realize that up until they finally do, or maybe it's too late. But help is a strength. It's not a weakness. And it's easy to see in Dal, because Dal is the analog character for maybe young boys or young men out there who maybe try and shoulder all of the fun aspects of leadership, but don't really understand what the responsible weight of that leadership really means. And sure, the bravado is there, the charm is there, the charisma is there. But when things really kind of get turned upside down, is the emotional preparedness there? And if it's not there, it may be there with somebody else. And like you said, respecting your elders, it was there with Janeway. Mm-hmm. Janeway represented at one point in time the authority system that Dal is trying to rebel against, to rally against. Until he can't, until he understands that,
until he becomes the system.
Exactly. He became the system that even his crew was like, we're not really on board with you, kid. So sure, you can take the captain's quarters, you can take the captain's chair. Doesn't make you the captain, right? Only the actions and leadership and sacrificing your needs for the needs of the crew. That makes you a captain. That makes you a leader, right?
Would you make a play for the captain's quarter, though? Or would 14-year-old Norman have been like, yes, this is my room? Because 14-year-old Ashley definitely would have been like, I live here now. Thank you so much. Take the bananas out of my replicator.
I would have looked for the onboard arcade. That's where I would have lived. So I'd probably be hanging out like the vehicle replicator.
So you're going
making cool stuff.
Like in TOS, yeah, you're going for like the bowling alley. That's where you want to be, or you're going for station ops.
Yeah, maybe now I'd be more comfortable like looking out for the captain's quarters, but 14-year-old me, 10-year-old me, just, $5, a couple hours at Aladdin's Castle in Canton, Ohio, and I was fine. You can leave me there in my hologram situation. Yeah, I'm dropping some old knowledge there too. But I mean, just to kind of like bring this full circle, the greatest captains in Star Trek eventually had to ask for help. Kirk, Picard, Sisko, Janeway, Archer, right? They all, and Burnham, Saru, right? All of them needed at one point in time. So as we wrap things up, Ashley, we always kind of like take a look at what are kind of like the big picture takeaways that either we didn't get to in our major observations or morals, meanings, and messages, or what are we expecting to see maybe come up from everything that we've learned so far? So for me, obviously that we've learned that authority figures to Dal, they grate on him, and we're not exactly sure, even if he like got past some of his phobias about that, we're not sure if that will ever come up again. Sometimes a lesson learned is just that, a lesson learned, and maybe that might plague the crew again in the Protostar. But I do love the fact that this is a learning moment, not just for him, but for people in the audience as well. And maybe over time, that won't be as much of an issue for him. And maybe even the crew learns something from his example as this kind of burgeoning captain. So I just think that I hope that one of the bigger messages also is that your actions speak louder than your words. I know it's a very simple trope, it's a very simple meaning, but I think that also for some of the younger viewers out there, it's a very important one too.
And tropes aren't always a bad thing. Tropes often become tropes for a reason because they get the job done. I want to evoke that you have to show up for the people who are most important to you. I don't think right now the crew knows that these are the most important, that this is their found family, but they're about to. Gwen and Rock Talk are forging this tentative trust, and you use the word like sisterhood earlier, and like I want them. I want swapping stickers and braiding hair for them so bad. Dal now has a tentative trust with Janeway, which has earned him a tentative respect from Jankum and Zero, who are going to be the guys in the chairs who always look like they're driving the ship no matter what the job is. He's going to eventually become a captain who is worthy of everyone we've evoked before, stand up there with Archer and Sisko and Janeway, etc. Murph will defy gravity, whether it is artificial or otherwise. And
right.
I said it last time, Murph's going to do something just mind blow emoji here, and it's going to totally flip the script on them. I don't know why I want to keep saying him, but for now, Murph is just a delight. And Janeway's going to be present to remind them all to like put up for their family or shut up, which is what she did on Voyager. And I'm very excited for that. And if someone isn't doing their job, another person will. Like we learned that simply writing your name on something doesn't mean that it's yours, and it certainly doesn't mean that you've earned it. So I'm really excited to see the crew become worthy of the Protostar, and then the Protostar with all of its secrets becoming worthy of them as well.
Mm-hmm. One last question though. Do you think that sooner or later, hopefully sooner, because I don't think that they can sustain this, is it going to be also at the end that dun 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 cut back to like the villains and the wringing of the hands and the twirling of the mustaches, and or are we going to actually see the Diviner and Dreadnought do something actually significant? And what do you think that's going to be?
I think we have another couple episodes of just seeing the Diviner. I just want to call him Denethor. Just seeing Walter Bishop, of just seeing the Diviner, or maybe we'll open or we'll cut away. But like, I think the machinations are going to be small because we're in this YA space and mustache twirling villains tend to be the style of the day. I don't mean that as a dig. It's not all of the villains in my YA comics are mustache twirling villains. They can all hang out together. I think we'll probably see them make a big move. I would guess around episode 5, because by then that's enough time for most of the characters to get either a full episode arc or a mini arc on their own. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to get back, I think, to the bad guys and moving the plot forward a little bit.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, 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 dun,
so
dun,
to be continued.
Indeed.
Right, the big, got to get that big, sinister score going. And I know that Nami will be able to deliver that as well.
Ready.
Because her music is so good. Well, that's it for our show. So thank you everyone for joining us here on Mission Log Prodigy. If you have enjoyed what you've seen here, please make sure you subscribe to this show so that you can be notified when the new Mission Log Prodigy episodes are released. And please also engage the like button and share our new show with as many friends and fans as you can. Oh, and also, please follow Mission Log Prodigy on Twitter at ML_Prodigy.
Mission Log Prodigy is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment, executive producer Rod Roddenberry. Our website and your opportunity to comment and connect with us is missionlogpodcast.com. And if you would like to support Mission Log directly, and why wouldn't you, you can do so at patreon.com/missionlog.
Thank you everyone for taking the time to be with us, and we look forward to sharing our thoughts with you on episode 4 next week. And now, it's time for our very special incoming transmissions.
Receiving listener communications. Message playback begins.
My name is Lorelai. I am 10 years old, and I do like this show. And my favorite part was when Janeway materializes the coffee and then she drinks it. And what I learned from this is that you should always ask for help when you're having a problem.
Tell me your name.
Rook.
Okay, how old are you, Rook?
6.
Okay, did you like the episode?
Like, kinda.
Okay, what was your favorite part of the episode?
When Zero, had that goop on him.
Oh, you liked it when Murph gooed on Zero?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny. What did you learn from the episode?
Don't lie.
Don't lie. You think Doll did a bad job lying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
You should never say, I can control this. Like, I know how to do this. I don't need your help.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. You should ask for help.
Yeah.
You should let experts help you out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do that?
Um,
You let experts help you out, like your teacher?
yeah.
Okay.
So what's your name?
Colin.
How old are you?
11.
Okay. Did you like the episode we just saw?
Yeah.
What was your favorite part?
When they avoided the star and got over the star at the end.
When they escaped?
Yeah.
What did you learn from the show?
Maybe like ask for help when you need it.
Yeah.
My name is James. I am 6 years old. I love the episode, and
What was your favorite part?
my favorite part was when they zoomed through the river of fire in the black hole, and I learned,
And the guy was holding on to.
and the guy was holding on to the space slug, and I learned when a person's giving you advice, you should always listen, and
Don't be afraid.
don't be afraid to ask for help. Well, my name is Zale, and I'm 8 years old.
Did you like the second episode?
Yes, I did. My favorite scene in the second episode was when, in the last part, when the big bad guy ship took off and turned invisible. I liked it because it was funny, because there was a ship that he wanted, but then he had like this ship that appears to be perfectly fine for him.
Did you learn anything from this episode?
Yes. I think the episode was like about asking for help, and it's always okay to ask for help.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.